Hello, my name is John Flood. I'm Professor of Law and Sociology at the Griffith University. This is a short introductory lecture for technology and society. It's to get you acquainted with me and to get you acquainted with the course and what we are going to be doing. So first of all, let me explain who I am. I am a combination of a lawyer, anthropologist in sociology. So my first degree was in economics and law, and then I did a PhD in sociology. Now, most of my research has been looking at the way lawyers work, how law has globalized in the world. And this has led me, as I've gone through that, to begin to look at more sophisticated ways of how people work and what they do, which inevitably leads towards technology. Now, in the last 20 years, maybe or so, technology has really run rapidly across the world and into our lives. You know, the internet, as you will see in the second part of the course, started in the 1960s. We didn't really get going in a big way until probably the 1990s or early 2000s, depending on which part of the world you're in. And that's probably an interesting thing, because part of the world you are in very much depends on what kind of technology you can access and how easily you can connect to it. If you live in somewhere like South Korea, United States, Northern Europe, maybe Australia, you will have a pretty good and solid and maybe fast internet connection. Australia's is rather slow, I'm afraid. That's because of certain decisions taken by a government some years ago. Instead of using fibre for the whole network, they decided to combine it with the old copper wires that were already in existence. That slowed it down quite tremendously. And of course, if you live in the rural areas, the outback of Australia, then you may have to depend on satellite, which is even clunkier, slower, and more inefficient. So Australia's not really that good. If, however, you live somewhere like Africa, then it's much, much slower altogether. That's if you can get internet. And if you can access internet, it might be very expensive, because essentially there were maybe one or two pipes going into Australia, into South Africa, and perhaps and Kenya, I think, which then spread across the entire continent. Anyway, so to put that into context, I became a user of the internet in 1987. I sent my first email in 1987, long before most of you were born. And I've used the internet ever since. Has it been a good thing? On the whole, yes. Are there bad things? Plenty, as we will come to discover in this course. Now, the course tries to take a critical view of certain aspects of technology. We don't have enough time to cover everything. And also the degree of skill required by us to cover everything isn't really there. So we will be looking at some of the technical aspects of technology, but on the whole, mostly looking at the social aspects of technology, how it affects our lives, how it affects us as individuals, and so on. Sorry, frog in the throat. Now, we live in a hyper-connected world, one in which, we expect to get hold of anybody almost instantly, whether it's through SMS, the most basic one, if you like, whether it's through email, if anybody still uses email, whether it's through Slack, whether it's through Telegram, whether it's through WhatsApp, whether it's via TikTok, Facebook, and so on. There are many, many ways of doing it now. But they all share common features. Some of them will try to connect synchronously, which is, we are in connection at the same time. Some are asynchronous, means, one person is there, the other one may come on later. Text messages are often asynchronous, if you like. WhatsApp, Signal, others, Discord. I mean, you just there are lots and lots of these things. Now, one of the things that they all share in common, and I'm going to reinforce this time and time again throughout this course, is that social media, internet companies, and so on, are there to make money. They are for-profit enterprises. Very occasionally, you find somebody does something for non-profit reasons. A classic example of that is Tim Berners-Lee, who created the World Wide Web. He devised the code, HTML, hypertext markup text language, or whatever it is, like hypertext markup language. That was the coding, if you like, that would allow people to connect web pages together on websites and to create hyperlinks so that you could put a word in with a link that would connect to something else. This was done back in 1993 when Berners-Lee was a scientist at CERN, which is the Large Hadron Collider in Europe. And he found that they had so much data, so much information, that nobody knew how to find it. And so this was one way of getting people to find it like that. Now, a lot of our communication often is sending Word documents or PDFs, things like that, to people. Extremely inefficient, but we're inefficient creatures, what can I say? The World Bank estimated, when it did some research, that of all the documents it published for the world to see, the vast majority, vast majority of these, I think hundreds of thousands, at least maybe millions of documents, which were all basically published as PDFs, portable document format, somewhere in the region of 97% had never been downloaded, never been opened, never read. So in other words, the vast majority of all of this expertise and knowledge that they're trying to give to the world to improve it, nobody was looking at it. Part of that is the problem of the PDF. It's a clunky format, but we stick to it. I mean, if you look on the university website, you will see an awful lot of PDFs. I suspect many, if not most of those, have never been opened. If you've ever been sent a form to fill in, and it's a PDF, it's a pain. It's a real pain to do that. So, anyway, that was the non-profit bit. The for-profit bit is there. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk with Twitter, and the others. They want to make money. They make money. The big five tech companies, Apple or Apple, Google, or Alphabet as it now is, Facebook, and so on, are some of the richest, biggest companies in the world. The social media companies especially make a lot of money from advertising. And what they promise, and we will go into this again in more detail, what they promise to their advertisers is that unlike TV, where anybody watching gets an advertisement for a pair of slippers or a new kind of frozen pizza, whether or not they wear slippers or eat pizza, that advertisement still goes out to them. So a lot of those advertisements are wasted. You're paying money to a TV company to send these things out, and it's a waste. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. What if you can direct those advertisements to people who want them or who appear to want them. If you can micro-target those people, then the money you're spending on advertising is more rewarding, you get more sales, and so on. So it means that the social media companies, Facebook is the one par excellence, and we will deal with that in one of the modules of the course, needs to know what people like, what people dislike, and so on. And so, it measures every time you press that like button, there's something they like. And so its algorithm is designed to feed you things based around your likes. Now that's just not Facebook, that's TikTok, that's YouTube, that's Google, all of them do that. Oh, John Flood likes hi-fi. Oh, we'll send him lots and lots of hi-fi stuff. I do like hi-fi, but not to the exclusion of everything else. I actually did make the mistake once of searching for a pair of slippers. For a long time, I ended up with advertisements about slippers coming to me. Even after I'd actually bought a pair, I still got more and more. And in the end, I had to create false likes just to stop them sending me slipper stuff. So it's a tricky thing. Now, this is known as surveillance capitalism. In other words, the data we generate is like gold, oil, diamonds, whatever metaphor you want to use, to these companies. The more data they can collect about you, the more they can target that advertising towards you, the more money they can charge the companies who wish to advertise through them. And it's a very competitive market. Let me give you an example. I suspect many of you, me included, have an iPhone. Maybe you've got an Android phone. I happen to have both. I've got an Android and iPhone. For a long time, iPhones were designed in such a way that if you used Facebook or Twitter or TikTok, something like that, the companies were able to track you and follow what you were doing, even if you were not using the app, by the way. And a couple of iOS updates ago, one or maybe two, Apple introduced a new switch, which was to give you the choice of whether you wish to be tracked or not. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, they were horrified. They were appalled by this because it meant you, the punter, had a choice. They didn't like you being given a choice. And so when that switch was introduced and people could choose, people were saying, no, don't track, don't track, don't track. And so there was a lot of effort on the part of Facebook and YouTube and so on to say, look, if you say don't track, you will find that you'll just be given all kinds of advertisements from anywhere. You'll get slippers, you'll get cement, you'll get toothpaste, whatever it might be. Whereas if you say allow us to track, you'll get those that are really meaningful and significant to you. Well, maybe. Anyway, as a result, some of the companies have suffered huge losses in advertising revenue, Facebook especially. Twitter is falling apart because of the Elon Musk takeover. I'll probably talk about that along the way. Anyway, those are some of the issues that come up. But in the course, we'll be looking at things like health and technology, the way government uses technology now. You only have to think of the scares around the elections. Are Russian hackers going to make the election uncertain? Are the Chinese doing the same? But also, is the question of trust. What can we trust in the use of technology? I talk to somebody, a friend or acquaintance or family member, I'm usually able to trust them, I think, I know this person, I know what they think. But when you're in cyberspace, you don't know that person. And you don't know who or what that person is. You don't know whether you're talking to a male, female, animal, or what. A bot, artificial intelligence? We don't know. We don't know. It's so easy to be deceived. One of the things I want to look at, which I'm going to sort of add in this time, is the ability of artificial intelligence or machine learning to create people, images, writing, all sorts of things without human intervention. And it is possible for artificial intelligence to create a picture of a person who does not exist, but it looks perfectly normal, perfectly reasonable. There's nothing about it. One of the things I'm quite interested in at the moment is Dezgo.com, which is DEZGO.com. I mentioned it in the announcements, where you can instruct the program with a series of instructions. You can say, I've been doing it with my pet dog, saying, draw a papillon in the style of Vermeer, or Picasso, or Damien Hirst, whatever. And it produces an image, and it's extraordinary, and it's all done with technology in the background, this kind of rendering. We have GPT-3, which is artificial intelligence that can write as well as any human, might even write better than us. In fact, there's a journal I'm associated with, and as an experiment, we asked GPT-3 to write an article for the journal. It was good enough to be published, almost, but we did publish it just as a way to let people see what's going on. You've heard of deep fakes, where people's images are used in videos to create a video of somebody talking. One of the most famous ones is of the former President Obama, who was faked. And it is very difficult to distinguish between the fake and the real, especially as this is becoming increasingly sophisticated and so on. Some of you will have seen the film Minority Report, and as futuristic as it appears, maybe some of that is already encroaching on our present selves. So we look at these things in the course, and I am very interested in what technology is doing in the world at the moment. How do we regulate it? Do we just let technology do what it wants? And if we regulate, what do we regulate? And if we regulate, do we inhibit free speech? Or would we be like China and use technology as a way of monitoring people, surveilling people? Imagine this situation, for example. One of the things that companies that are like Google and so on, dealing with facial recognition, is to make the AI sufficiently sophisticated that it can understand people's emotional states by the way their faces appear. Is someone sad? Are they happy? Angry? Or what? It's still early days. It's very hard for AI to do this, but the Chinese are using this. Now, one of the reasons the Chinese are using it is because they want to know what their population is doing. When you have a population of over 1 billion people, it's a hard and rather large number to keep track of. So if you have sufficient CCTV cameras around your country and you can watch what people are doing, well, supposing you saw a large number of people who were unhappy, who were sad, who were angry. If you were a central government like the Chinese one, you might say, well, are these people interested in unrest? Are they discontented with the way the government is working for them? Are they even revolutionary? Well, even if you can't completely tell, it means, all right, we'll keep tabs on those people. and just see if anything happens in that way. Whereas if people appear to be happy, appear to be contented, we don't have to do that. We're doing everything the right way. So who knows? We'll see. So these sorts of things are increasingly happening. And, this is something we have to deal with more and more. We are coming across more and more fraud that is committed on the internet, banking scams and things like this, where people are losing large sums of money. Again, how do we regulate those sorts of things? How do we make cyberspace a safe place for people? We hear about young children, being groomed on the internet, being persecuted, being abused. Some of them even becoming suicidal. It's terrible. It's horrible in that way. And it should not be allowed. Again, how do we regulate that? And how do we regulate that across borders? We might be able to regulate it in Australia, but most of this stuff is coming from outside. And if another country says we're not going to regulate it the same way, the US maybe, we're kind of stuck. There's no central or global regulator that says, oh, this is what we're going to do. So it's very, very hard. So those are some of the things we're looking at. The very final module of the course, I'm looking at something which I call brain hacking, or bioengineering, if you like. And this is, instead of looking outside at what technology is doing, the computer, artificial intelligence and things like that, is to look inside at what can be done to our brains and our minds. Is it possible that we can become hybrid humans? Transhuman, as some people call it. Can we be part machine, part human? Who knows? What if we use particular kinds of drugs to enhance our concentration, our ability to work longer hours, and things like this? What if we embed chips in our hands? All of these sorts of things. Now, everything I've mentioned just then is actually being done right now. But again, we don't know what the consequences are, what the long-term consequences are. And that's important because we live in an age of pandemics and things like that now, COVID. And COVID has created its own sort of technology, if you like, and we'll probably talk about that. Anyway, those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at. And so I hope you find it interesting, and I look forward to seeing you.